Hello, friend. Season
4.
The Mystical American Patriot Society is transmitting to you from a high desert encampment on the frontier of our agrarian hoplite republic. This is a variety program for happy warriors who are getting some seriously bad vibes from the deranged post-Christian technocracy. Grab a tankard of yak's milk and join us by the campfire as Sumo and Cavi return to shake your surveillance, expel your parasites, and generally have a good time. Are you ready? Stand by.
Mystical American Patriot Society. Now available in 3 dimensions.
I can show you the world, shining, glimmering over there. I should have looked at the lyrics for something. Somewhere over and under, when you let your heart decide. A whole new world, a dazzling place I never seen. And when I'm way up there, it's oh so fair that I am only dreaming. I don't think those words are right. I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched Aladdin. Did that seem good, sort of close to the song? A whole new world.
Yeah, I haven't probably watched Aladdin in like over 30 years.
Is it that old? When did it come out? I guess the 90s.
90s for sure.
Anyway, let's show everyone a whole new world. Today, everyone, this is not a beginner class. If there was a conspiracy college, and there is, it's this show. If there was a conspiracy college, there would be different levels, and there would be, there'd be Conspiracy 101, there'd be Conspiracy 102, there'd be advanced topics in conspiracy, there'd be differential conspiracies, there'd be numerical conspiracy analysis, and so forth and so on. And then you would get to like graduate level conspiracy, and this is a graduate level course. If you're not ready for it, it's fine. Don't feel bad. We all are somewhere. Everyone's got to be somewhere. And you should just, you can still listen. You're welcome to sit in, but you're probably not going to pass the course if you sit for the test. Does that make sense, everybody? I hope so. How much math did you do? Go ahead, Cavi.
I was just going to say, I'll shout out, if you want like intro to conspiracy courses, check out the Odd Man Outs podcast.
Yeah, he does.
On
Alternate Current Radio. Yes, he does a great job with intro to conspiracy, and even I would say some advanced conspiracy courses.
Yeah, intro and more advanced. But yeah, if
Yeah.
you want to learn who like all these different organizations are and everything, he's got episodes on everything.
Shout out to the odd man out. He's a great fellow. I don't think he's an odd man at all, to be honest. I think he's a very normal man. But that's his self-image, and I can't take it away from him. Whatever he wants to identify as. But my point is this: when I Cavi, how high up into math did you go in school?
I did calculus and linear algebra, and then
Mhm.
a bunch of finance stuff and accounting stuff.
Yes, that's good. That's pretty good. That's very good actually. Um, I went up pretty high in math, and here's how math goes when you get to the upper levels of math. You do calculus like 1, 2, and 3. Then you do differential equations, linear algebra, numerical analysis, statistics, then something called like stochastic analysis or whatever. I don't remember. Then something called vector space. I don't even remember all the names of it. But anyway, after you do several of those, then you get to something. And I thought I was really rolling high. I was like, these are some tough classes. And then after like years of that, they said, okay, now you're ready for this next course. And they signed me up for it. It was called Introduction to Advanced Mathematics. I was like, all that wasn't considered advanced. They're like, oh no, that's just the beginner stuff. I was like, oh, okay. And then I did that for a while. And I went all the way until I got to some guy in a classroom who was teaching, it was a course on duality, and which is this highfalutin mathematical concept that's pretty out there. And it was duality 2, I think. And in duality 2, he got up there and he wrote this equation on the board. And then it took him like 2 hours to go through the whole thing. It was something about being self-dual or whatever. I don't even remember what these terms mean exactly. And then he stepped back from the thing and he had a piece of chalk in his hand and he looked at the board for like a good while. And then he turned to us very like solemn, almost in tears, and he said, "Isn't that beautiful?" At this equation on the board. And that's how a real mathematician, that's how you know if you're fit to be a true mathematician, is if you can look at that and look at a formula made of chalk on the board and start crying.
That was my grade 12 math teacher.
Yeah. People that are really mathematicians find math, they're almost in a relationship with math, and not an exaggeration. Most of them that are really quite good don't have a lot of life outside of math, and that's fine because they find math to be their lover. They think math it's hard to explain to someone that is not. But he was just awestruck by this equation. He was like, "This is the most beautiful thing he'd ever." Like he was looking at a piece of God, and maybe he was. My point is, this is like duality, the duality 2 for conspiracies. This is that level. Okay. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to explain to you how conspiracies are orchestrated, hidden, and covered up. Because that's the great question everyone always has. Well, how could they get away with it? How would so many people lie? How could they cover up such a thing? Blah, 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 blah. That's always the great question people have. And there is an answer, and this is the answer. And a lot of you are not ready for it, but some of you are. And I'm going to explain it to you using psychology, classical literature, especially the Greek myths and the Odyssey. Still going a little bit on the Odyssey, and the latest Lindsay Clancy case of the lady that strangled her 3 kids. Okay. Have you ever heard of a book? I don't know if this book. I think it may have been talked about or brought up in our group chat, which people can access by paying for the Patreon or the Gumroad and many of the other ways that we have to support the show, which most of you don't do, by the way. You're bad listeners. But did anyone bring that up in the group chat, or was that me hallucinating? This book called
didn't mention the name of the book.
Watch What You Hear. Watch What You Hear. It's at the top.
I don't remember.
Yeah, watch what
that
you
in the group chat.
It is it's the full title is Watch What You Hear, Penelope's Dream of 20 Geese by Edward Teach. And that's why there's geese on there. Although you said these were swans, maybe they are swans.
I'm used to the feral Canadian geese. They're a lot
Yeah,
less elegant.
these are swans, but the PowerPoint template didn't have a good goose. This is as close as I get. So I just imagine it's swans. Imagine they're geese. These are more elegant than geese. You're correct. But anyway, and it's on the 70s for a reason. It's a 70s template. If you're just listening, first of all, don't, but still welcome. View us on the YouTube page or the Substack, whichever you like. We have a whole videos there, and you get more depth out of it. You know, it's one thing to listen to the lectures; it's another to actually see the chalkboard. Okay, so and it's a 70s theme if you're just listening, and it says, watch what you hear, a feminist reading of the Odyssey. And I am going to give you a feminist reading of the Odyssey, and I don't mean that in a negative towards women way. I know after the last episode, some people took away from that I was negative towards women. I'm not. I'm calling to women and attention to something. How conspiracies are orchestrated, 20 geese, and the offloading of agency. This is going to be a very intense course, so strap in, everyone. I hope that you are ready for it. Let's see. But first, buy the book. New book out, Theology with a Spear. There's the cover. It looks great. It is, there's some columns, the Greek columns. Doric? I don't remember my columns. Columns and a fist holding a spear going up to the sky, and it says Theology with a Spear. Buy it now. It's great. People have said it's the greatest thing since sliced bread as far as theology goes. Okay, let's move on. Buy book.
Links are in the show notes.
It's in the show notes. Also, this PowerPoint is somewhat animated. I'm not sure why. Something got turned on and the things sort of fly in there. I didn't do that on purpose, but there you go. So Penelope's Dream in the Odyssey, Kevin. When's the last time you read the Odyssey by Homer?
Oh, years ago, and I didn't read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I tapped out because it was too poetry-like.
It is.
I was probably too young to appreciate that at the time.
There's many barriers to the Odyssey. One is that it's, like you said, a poem. And I think I'm sure it sounds much better in ancient Greek. And flows a lot better, and you can remember it better. And the story, when it's translated to English,
and then turned into an English poem. Yeah,
it's like it's tougher. Poetry doesn't translate as easily. But anyway, toward the end of the book, before Odysseus, well, actually, when Odysseus is back, but he's still disguised as a beggar by Athena. He hasn't yet killed all the suitors that are there trying to marry his wife and take his kingdom. Penelope tells the beggar this dream that she's had. And I'm going to read it for you. This is a translation, but it is, I'm not going to, it wouldn't do any good for us to read the ancient Greek, would it? So she said, please, read this dream for me, won't you? Listen closely. I keep 20 geese in the house. From the water trough, they come and peck their wheat. I love to watch them all. But down from a mountain swooped this great hooked-beaked eagle. Yes, and he snapped their necks and killed them one and all. And they lay in heaps throughout the halls, while he, back to the clear blue sky, he soared at once. But I wept and wailed, only a dream, of course. And our well-groomed ladies came and clustered round me, sobbing, stricken. The eagle killed my geese. But down he swooped again, and setting onto a jutting rafter, called out in a human voice that dried my tears. Courage, daughter, he said, of famous King Icarus. This is no dream, but a happy waking vision, real as day, that will come true for you. The geese were your suitors. I was once the eagle, but now I am your husband, back again at last, about to launch a terrible fate against them all. So he vowed, and the soothing sleep released me. I peered around and saw my geese in the house, pecking at their wheat, at the same trough where they always took their meal. Okay, so that's Penelope's dream. And she asks the beggar, who's Odysseus, to interpret this dream for her. And he says, well, of course, it is just what the eagle said in your dream, that, your husband's going to come back. And of course, he would say that. That is his plan. And that's what pretty much everyone, and since this was written 3,000-ish years ago, has taken the dream to mean. And I am here to tell you that dream is wrong. That interpretation of this dream is wrong. And actually, the entire actual point, purpose, and meaning of the Odyssey is hidden up in the true interpretation of this dream. What do you think of that, Cabby?
You're blowing my mind. So you're saying that like the book written thousands of years ago, you figured it out now.
I figured it out now. We on this show.
Beautiful.
Thousands of years of people being wronged, and I actually know, with the help of the author of this book, gives a very convincing argument that this is in fact incorrect. This is that the eagle's interpretation is wrong, using both the text itself as evidence and what we've come to know of dream analysis from psychology, specifically Sigmund Freud, who people only say is debunked precisely because if they took him seriously, they would have to see how their own interpretations of their own dreams are bad, and they don't want to do that. So was Penelope actually faithful? That's sort of the question. Did she want Odysseus to come home, and what is the Odyssey actually about? So the Penelope has been held up for thousands of years now as the faithful, loving wife who waited for 20 years for her husband to come home. And it's not about when I speak of the faithfulness here, I'm not talking really about whether or not she had relations with her suitors, the people that wanted to marry her. There were lots of Greek competing myths that didn't make it into Homer, where she was completely faithful and denied them all, and some where she slept with every single one of them. And it doesn't, it's kind of like Greek mythology is kind of like comic books today. There are multiple authors using the same characters in different stories, and they twist them around in different ways. Spider-Man's been on 1,000 different adventures, and they don't all go together. Some of them have the exact opposite kind of thing happening. Sometimes he kills Doc Ock, and sometimes Doc Ock kills him, and vice versa, right? Same sort of thing. But that's not actually what I'm talking about. I mean, did she, in the text of Homer, was she actually faithful to him in the sense that she carried on loving him, not in the physical sense, really, of did she have sex with other people, but did she continue to love him through the end? And did she want him to come home even? That's the question we're going to ask. And I think this dream is very interesting in that regard. Western civilization has historically taken it as a given that the dream means what it says. And this is a mistake. But the whole thing with dreams, though, we get this from Freud, is that they are disguised wishes, things the person wants, but can't admit to themselves that they want. And Freud's point, and Jung after him, and a few other psychoanalysts after them, until psychology decided that's too upsetting to look at, let's pretend something else is happening, which is kind of why psychiatry is where it is today. The whole thing with dreams, though, is like, so why does your subconscious need to express something cryptically to you? Why can't it just come out and say it? This is the thing people always say, why would I dream about that? Or why would water represent chaos? Or why would, I don't know, a stray dog represent my thinking that my wife is unfaithful and sleeping with someone else or whatever, right? That doesn't make it, well, because you don't want to think it. It's a part of you that has this idea, and you're like, and anytime it even begins to come up, you just shove it away. You shove it away. I don't want to think that. And the only way it gets through, your subconscious gets these through to you, is in a cryptic way. And it does this over and over again until it breaks through, and you either accept it or you have a mental breakdown. And that was Freud's belief of why dreams came the way they did. So a dream is not going to tell you the accurate interpretation of itself, because the whole point of the dream is that you're not supposed to know what it is. It's not supposed to be directly obvious. Does that make sense, Cappy?
Yes.
Yes. And how do you feel about that? How do you feel so far about this idea?
Yeah, I don't really know much about dreams. I always thought of dreams as kind of like your brain's main job is to basically create your reality. And when you're awake, it creates your reality based on sensory input. But when you're asleep, your senses are basically turned off. So it goes into your memories and subconscious and basically creates a reality out of that.
Yeah, and I think that is partly what it's doing. And part of that subconscious is things that you want, but are having emotional conflict with.
Maybe.
Dreams aren't cryptic because your subconscious is stupid. That's the thing. They're cryptic because your subconscious is trying to sneak an idea past you. And this is a tough thing to get to. Jung was famous for saying, he said, the unconscious is really unconscious, meaning, people struggle with this, meaning that there is a part of you which is thinking that you are not aware of, and like as in not conscious of. There is a part of your, let's call it your brain, your mind, that is having thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you perceive, if you perceive them at all in your conscious mind, you perceive as vague discomfort, anxiety, reasons, and that there is and it is kind of the left side, right side hemispheres of your brain type thing. And in fact, it actually is that part of your brain, one side, has a way that things should be and the way you should be. And the other side is saying, yeah, but all these other things, what about I want this? And it says, no, we don't want that actually. And that's an intrusive thought. It shoves that away or whatever else, whatever it wants to say. And so one side of your brain is trying to talk to the other side in a way that it'll listen to it. And that's a weird thought, but that does seem to be what's happening. So dreams aren't cryptic because your subconscious is stupid. They're cryptic because your subconscious is trying to sneak what your own desires past you and get you to acknowledge them. And I know people hate Freud, but here's a cassette tape. And see, it's got all these, here's the Freudian symbolism, and you ask yourself, this is all crazy. Like sexual desire, well, that could be snakes, poles, trees, guns, knives, anything that's penetrating or phallic shaped, right? Powerlessness is being naked at school, your teeth falling out, unable to run. Yeah, everyone's had the dream where they're unable to move properly. Something's chasing them and they're like, I can't move. Death is often symbolized by traveling, going on a long journey, something unknown about yourself, discovering a room in your house you've never noticed. That's a very common dream. A very common way to express it, like, because you live in your house and you think I know everything about it. You think I know everything about me. And then you're like, oh, no, wait, there's this whole, I never looked behind this. There's a whole other room back here. Right. And that's like, it's a symbol for discovering something about yourself you had refused to look at in the past. Femininity or the feminine sexual side can be boxes, containers, caves, tunnels, doorways for obvious reasons. Womb-like substance, womb-like things. Uncertainty, water, being lost in a maze, lost in the woods. Cavi, have any of these symbols ever come up in your dreams before?
Yeah, the teeth falling out, I've had like a few times for sure.
Yeah, that's
I've
because.
never.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I've never had the discovering a room you've never noticed. Going on a journey, I don't think so. Naked at school, maybe. I don't think I've actually ever had the being unable to move.
Yeah. I've had a lot of these, I would say, at different points, not all of them. I don't think I've ever had the teeth falling out one, but I've had the unable to run one for sure. And these are very common archetypes. Jung called this evidence of the collective unconscious, meaning that we all have an unconscious mind, and it expresses itself in repeatable ways between all of us. Which is our collectively from our shared ancestry or whatever you want to say reason. We all express different things symbolically in different ways, and we sort of have to, otherwise stories wouldn't work, right? If symbolism wasn't in some sense instinctual in us, then stories would not really be possible because they rely so much on symbolism. And so what happens when you're dreaming is your subconscious, one side of your brain is telling a story to the other, a symbolic one, trying to get it to get a message that it's refusing to see. I know people hate Freud, but psychoanalysis is actually very based in trad-pilled because the whole thing is essentially at the heart is a very Christian message, even though Freud was Jewish, which is that people are lying to themselves about what they really want and about who they really are. They are trying to lie to themselves about how good they are. It's a very trad and based message, and it's very true. The dream would never be honest. That's the great thing about its own meaning, because the conscious mind would block it if it were honest. It would say, no, I don't want that. And so that's the thing. What happened is, the thing about psychology today is that it is itself repressed. And that's why it doesn't really work very well. And a lot of people have problems with it. So Freud and Jung saw within the human psyche tremendous darkness, tremendous evil. And why wouldn't they? They were kind of like, they were secular priests in a way, in the sense that people came to them and gave confession about their deepest, darkest secrets, sins, and things that they did. And they had their own version of, the sacrament of confession, where they would never tell patient doctor confidentiality, just like the priest promises to never tell what goes on, what is said in the confessional room. Like every Catholic priest, and I think Orthodox priest, they have a rule. Now, has everyone ever always followed it? No, but in general, the rule is anything, even if you confess to murder in a confessional, they're not going to tell anybody. They're not supposed to. Anything that's said in there stays in there. And Freud and Jung operated in a similar way. And in some ways, because they were not connected, they're not like representatives of God, people were more open to them about what they felt did. Because when you go into confession as a priest or whatever, but a lot of people feel guilt, and they feel God's about to, if they say that, God's about, lightning's going to come down from heaven. They didn't have that with Freud and Jung. And so they saw people in a very kind of, they saw people at their most naked, with their clothes on, but naked. And so they saw this darkness in people, coupled with the inability of the individual to face it, and to always be rationalizing it away, saying, oh, that's not me. That's not really what I wanted. That's not really, it just happened to me. I didn't actually do it. It wasn't my fault. Da, 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 da. The desire to believe oneself to be a, quote, good person is overwhelming in most people. And psychology as a discipline has fallen into exactly this. It is also unable to currently see the evil in people, tending to reframe it so that they're still good. In other words, well, it's not you, it's your brain chemistry. You're not bad, you're sick. You're not this, that, all that sort of stuff that we have an endemic to everything that we talk about now comes from psychology's inability to actually deal with the darkness that Jung and Freud and their immediate students were quite open about, because it was getting really scary. People were talking about things and the way they felt and stuff they did that people were just unable, even the doctors were unable to really deal with. Are you still with me, Kathy?
I'm still with you.
Excellent. And that's the entire idea behind shadow work. This concept, people have heard that a bunch. Jung's talk about integrating the shadow and so forth. It is nothing else but just that, which is it's looking at your own, admitting the sides of yourself that you don't want to admit. That's all. And Jung believed, Freud also, but this is more Jung's work on the shadow stuff, was that if you did not do this, you were more likely to fall prey to it because you would not be aware it was there. And that most of the evil in the world is done by people who are able to lie to themselves that they're doing good in some way. And I think all of us could see how that is 100% true in the world today. Pick your pet thing that you think of as a bad thing happening, and do not everyone doing it have a justification for why it's actually good, and consider themselves righteous, right? And then when you point out, if you try to put, they're blind to the irony of their situation. Like if you point it out to them, they can't see it. Even if they'll point out similar things in others, they cannot possibly see it in themselves, because part of themselves is blocking off the other part of themselves. Here's a picture of people in the 70s. Different time, simpler time, a lot of color. What do you think of the 70s, Cavi?
I
I think it would have been nice to be in the 70s, but I never was.
You say a lot of color, but like the houses and everything were very brown.
They were, I mean, in their clothes, I guess.
I
More than,
enjoyed that 70s show.
yeah, that 70s show. That was yeah. Oh, that's a Ashton Kutcher. I mean, there's a reason. I don't want to libel anyone. I'm just there's a shadow side there for sure. If you want to look up, um, just look up scandals around it. Well, just never mind. Never mind. We're just gonna go on. If you can't integrate your shadow, then you are more likely to fall prey to it. And this was the idea behind shadow work, or it was basically radical confession, where you admitted not only the things you did, but that you wanted to do, and that you were not a good person. It wasn't it wasn't a demon driving you. It wasn't this. It wasn't your brain chemistry. It was just you. Right. So you've got your conscious. This is the Freudian thing. You've got your conscious mind conforms to the superego. And this is what it's trying to do. So you've got your id, your ego, and your superego, according to Freudian psychology. And your id is your base animalistic desires for food, for safety, for shelter, the thing that gets afraid, the thing that has fight or flight, the thing that wants sex, the thing that, all those things, the things that want comfort. That's your id. Anything an animal has that you also have is part of the id. Okay. Any emotions your dog has, that's part of the id. And then your conscious mind, your ego, is kind of what you feel like is you, your sense of self. But then there's your super ego. And a lot of people think this is just your sense of morality, but it's not. It's super because it's above you, and it's actually many things. It's all the things which dictate what a quote unquote good person is to you. Okay. So the lizard people is you. I have this slogan here. Take this woman as an example here, this lady here. Right, she's a 70s lady arguing for abortion. She's at a little rally. She's got a red shirt on. Someone's playing a guitar of love behind her. Looks like it's also a woman. And she's just like, yay, abortion. Okay. Let's take this one. Since the 70s, so this woman was arguing for abortion in the 70s. She's a black lady. Her actions have contributed to the death of somewhere near 20 million of her own people, asterisk, to the extent that black people are a people, which I do not agree with. But a lot of people think they are. They're one people group. So her actions have contributed to about 20 million black babies being killed. So how does one cope with one's own evil if it cannot be admitted? And the answer is by having the superego reframe it and sanction it as something good. But Sumo, is the superego even real? What do you think, Cavi?
I don't know. This is one of those areas where I'm really not an expert, and I've really not actually really read that much or looked into it.
It's okay. There's no such thing as being an expert. There's just being a friend. That's all. That's all. Sumo, is the superego even real? Yeah. So here's all the different ways that the superego expresses itself. We've got consensus, what others think. We have fame. We have power. We have the facts, in quotes. We have what God says, and we have societal norms. So we've got a picture of a 70s cathedral there, a 70s newsroom. I don't remember who that actress is, but she was famous at the time. And then Gerald Ford, the presidents. And so these are the many faces of the superego, and this is what determines for most everybody, like 99% of everybody, what is moral, what is good, right? What it means to be a quote unquote good person. And isn't it strange? As the name implies, as I said, the superego is above you. It's super. It's not like technically part of you and your consciousness. It is your egoic mind above your id looking outside yourself for confirmation that it is good. And these are the different ways that people determine what is good and what is right and what is wrong. And here's the interesting bit. I put quotes around what God says, around God and what God says, and the facts and societal norms. And why did I put the quotes around them? Because isn't it amazing how often all of these various institutions converge on the same exact opinion? Isn't that really striking? Most people do what the people they see celebrities do, and power always never just flows along with group consensus. And the church never really gets that upset about what most people are doing. They may have somewhere in a document far away an issue about it, but they're never going to be like that. They're never going to, ostensibly they're against gay marriage and they have gay masses all the time, whether you're Anglican or whatever. Ostensibly they're against abortion. And there was just that lady who's a lesbian, married to a woman, lesbian mayor or governor who signed into law in Massachusetts abortion up to birth. And she's not going to get excommunicated. On paper, maybe somewhere, but they're not going to, they're like, hey, it's fine. The news, all the facts always support what everyone wants to do. And all these things converge because they are not real. They are all the same collective mechanism of excusing the person's actions so that we can pretend we are good. That's what it is. And that's very difficult for people to hear, especially if you are a person that loves facts or looks to your priest for answers or models yourself on what the government says is true. Or it depends on group normalization. But they all converge on the same thing every time, and they have throughout the ages. Here's some pictures of the flag. People aren't going to like this. I don't like it. But Christianity, regardless of whether it's Catholicism or Orthodoxy or Anglicanism or whatever, has always been the religion of the empire. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, the Habsburg Empire, the Russian Empire, the French Empire, whatever you want. It's always been the religion of the empire, and at every stage in its history has always more or less, regardless of what it said on paper, regardless of what some saint said here or there, has given sanction to whatever the empire was doing at the time. And if that was having slaves in the Spanish colonies, it was okay with it. I said, yeah. And it may have occasionally hemmed and hawed and been like, I don't know, but I can't really, but it did it anyway. Right? And it said, yeah, fine. And then when slavery is not, the superego doesn't like slavery anymore, it changes tune. When it was totally okay with all of colonialism for the British, and then it wasn't. It was okay with everything the Roman Empire did, and then it wasn't. When it changed, when the empire lost power, so did that part of the superego. Just like now with the American empire, it is fully on board with all trans issues and LGBT issues, even though less than 100 years ago, like 60, you could find it was incredibly against it. It's done a 180 degree about face because it goes along with what the rest of the superegos does. It is not different, and it's not ultimately in control of itself. The opinions of the clergy and the church ultimately are not their own. They are part of the group consensus. Does that make sense, Cavi? I think my internet connection may be unstable.
You're a little bit unstable, but it's all good.
All good. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think I'm following. I wanted to make a joke about which gay pride flag one of those is, but I couldn't decide which flag to pick. Maybe
these are all the gay pride flag. That's the thing. Every one of these flags is the gay pride flag. The SPQR Roman flag, the Union Jack, the Spain flag, the rainbow flag, the trans flag, the American flag, the French Empire flag, and the Russian Empire flag. They're all the gay flag because they're all the same thing in that they're all the superego. And this is why Jung had this concept of individuation. People think that's kind of a Luciferian demonic term, and people have used it for that, but Jung did not mean it in that way. What he meant was you have to, so long as you're subject to the superego's overriding dictates of morality, and this does get a little Nietzschean, you are just going to hide your evil within its structures of giving consent and reframing it as good every time. You're going whether that's slavery, whether that's colonialism, whether that's going to war and killing people, whether that's supporting abortion, whether it's LGBTQ stuff, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's usury, whether it's you, as long as you, if you have not individuated and are able to see, like, if you still need someone to excuse your dark side to yourself, you need an outside authority to excuse your dark side. You will always be in that process, no matter what. And that's why all these flags are the gay flag. Every flag is a gay flag. That's why I do not salute the flag. I do not pledge allegiance to the flag. Not because I hate America, because I'm not going to pledge allegiance to a flag that's gay. It's gay and dumb. Not in the homosexual way. Gay is in the weird, stupid way. This is Father Guido, by the way. Are you familiar with Father Guido Scaraducci?
I'm not, but you couldn't like make up a better name for that guy than that.
Father Guido Scaraducci. He's a Saturday Night Live character from the 70s.
Okay.
He was not actually a priest, but he was Italian, which is pretty close, and half Irish, which is, I mean, that basically gives him license. And he would pretend to be an Italian priest who said hilarious, not really hilarious for the, Saturday Night Live's had a long history, and not all of it. It's only been good a couple of times. A lot of it was mediocre, but he did say comedy, in quotes, sometimes. Right? He reported on the news dressed as sometimes the Pope or a bishop or just a priest in his frock. And, he has a movie, if you want to watch it, called Father Guido Scaraducci Goes to College. It's just an hour-long stand-up set at a college. I don't think it's very good, but it was on VHS if you want to find it somewhere. Probably on YouTube. What the empire wants, God wants. See, that's the thing. So Penelope's dream, right? Penelope asks, here's the questions we have to ask. Penelope asks a beggar, who's Odysseus in disguise, what he believes the dream means. But why would she do that? Why ask a beggar? Why ask anyone? Why ask, maybe you'd ask a religious authority there or something. Maybe you'd ask a doctor. I don't know who you would ask about this, or a seer, a prophet, but why a beggar? And as I said, the beggar that tells her the dream can only mean one thing and restates the eagle's interpretation. But again, why ask a beggar, right? Well, see, the interpretation the eagle gives is preferred by both parties and everyone ever since. Because it is the right interpretation, in quotes. It is the desire that a faithful wife is supposed to have. And women would like to be faithful wives, and men would like their wives to be faithful. And this is the interpretation that both parties want. And so they formed, if you will, a conspiracy to not look at it too hard. Right? Odysseus wants his wife to be faithful to him, and Penelope wants to want what she's supposed to want. So it's a win-win. As Alex Jones used to say, it's a 360 win. Which it's a win-win-win, a 360 win. When he was hawking his colloidal silver at people, which is what I want to do. I've wanted to do that my whole life, Cavi. I've wanted the show to get big enough that I can sell supplements to poor people, supplements that don't work.
Colloidal silver scheme.
I want a colloidal silver product that we can hawk at poor people. But yeah,
I think we're cutting in and out. I once got involved with a really sketchy colloidal silver company. That was a disaster. But I've tried it. I probably have the connections. Oh no, I tried like selling it. I haven't actually tried the product. No, the problem was the guy who was supposed to fulfill the orders was insane and just didn't ship any of the products out.
Yeah, he's insane because he's the colloidal. I think colloidal silver is like toxic to your brain.
It turns your skin blue if you take too much.
It turns your skin blue. But all I want to do is have a podcast big enough that I can sell people like emergency food kits for the collapse and maybe get them to get membership, get sponsored by the NRA or whatever. Right? It's just, something to prey on the latent fears of people who think they're macho. And do you remember when Alex Jones? I love him, by the way. When he had that he had that supplement, and he had his before and after pictures, and all the after one was him sunburned.
Yeah, he's just more red.
He looked exactly the same, just his skin was red. And he was like, "It's a self supplement." Oh, anyway,
I tried his sleep supplement. I think it's helped a little bit.
Yeah.
I tried his alpha male vitality or whatever that was. That did nothing.
The supplements, they will help if you actually have a deficiency in a thing. But most people, if you've been eating a varied diet, don't have a deficiency in a thing. So, and your body can only use so much of any given mineral or whatever. And so also there's one of them, I think it's L-thiamine. I don't remember. It's Chinese people's hair. It's true. The factories where they get this herbal supplement is they take Chinese people's hair in China and they grind it up into a pill. I don't know. And that is actually what the chemical is.
I'm fact checking this.
Yeah. There's one of them that's the Chinese people's hair. Not that that's bad. It's sterilized and the hair does have the minerals in it that they claim. But again, you probably don't need it. But anyway, it's a 360 win. Penelope wants what she wants to want, what she's supposed to want. Most people do. And Odysseus wants her to want that. And so it's a 360 win. Only the problem is this interpretation makes no sense. Right? And why is she asking for an interpretation unless the dream disturbed her? Here's an eagle killing the swans, which I tried to make into geese. Here's some of the problems with that interpretation. So, first of all, there are 20 geese and there are 108 suitors. We know the exact number of suitors. It says so in the text, and there's only 20. And also, she likes the geese. In her dream, she talks about liking the geese and being surrounded by them. There's Penelope from a 70s TV series about the Odyssey. She cries for them. And then the eagle, she cries for them when she dies, and then the eagle flies away. Right? So if he's Odysseus, why does he fly away at the end? Why does she like watching the geese? Why is she upset when he kills them? Why is there the wrong number of them? And another question is, why doesn't she just, for 20 years, just make the suitors go away? And people have answered that last question, why didn't she just make the suitors go away, by saying, well, she was a woman and she didn't have power to. And that's simply not true, because for many reasons. One, what we know from the other stories of the other heroes' wives, what they were doing, but during this time. But two, she's allowed to keep. I mean, she's not being forced to marry any. She's like 20 years. There's societal pressure for her to marry because they want to have a king, right? But she can choose who she wants, if anybody. She stalls it for 20 years, which is a good way of putting. I mean, that's a lot of power to put something off for. They are apparently at her command inside of her house and have to do more or less what she says. She is the reigning queen of Ithaca. I mean, she's the one in actual power here. She could just make them go away, but she keeps them around. Right? Why is that? There's many problems with the interpretation of that dream. Both her actions as the queen and her just the facts of the dream don't line up with the eagle's interpretation of the dream. Again, like I said, the eagle's interpretation cannot be correct for the simple fact that the dream gave it. Dreams, that's like the dreams are trying to sneak something past you. So it is a defense. It is saying, hey, don't worry about this. It was fine. Right? It's a way to sneak something past. Like, it was making her upset, and there was a fear that she might reject it. So the dream comes back in and says, oh, this is all something that you're supposed to want. Don't worry. Here's some 70s pictures. Look at those people in a car. There's some people exercising. Everyone was thinner then. There's some people roller skating. I don't know. There wasn't, I bet when there's no internet, people roller skate a lot more. That's the thesis I have. I think people don't roller skate enough because, you know, I mean, if you didn't have the internet and you got off and you're like in school and you get home, what do? You ride a bicycle or you roller skate? What else is there to do? Play baseball, I guess.
Go play in the woods.
Go play in the woods. Yeah. So this is a quote from the book, Watch What You Hear, which was from the sayings of Jesus, by the way. Watch what you hear. It's in the Gospels. If a person has an overtly sexual dream, the correct question to ask then is why sexual? Because again, if the dream is trying to hide something, right? What desire or wish is so deeply repressed that a sexual fantasy, often a disturbing one, is safer to manifest to the consciousness than whatever it is that has been dreamed, the sexual dream. Notice how the eagle deflects, right? He doesn't address that she likes the geese or that she's crying for them. You know, there's jazzercise. She doesn't address why Odysseus, the eagle, flies away, doesn't deal with the 20 versus 100 issue. And all these things that it leaves out, like he flies back and he's like, oh, don't worry. Like if it was that, he'd be like, why, this is, as the author of the book puts it, this is the smell of bleach loudly pointing to something missing. If you walk into someone's house and it smells very much of bleach, you're like, what was cleaned up here? E.g., what is repressed? All right, who is that guy, the YouTuber that everyone thinks killed his wife? Giuseppe.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name?
It's something like that. John Paul Garepi or something?
John Paul, yeah, Garepi. YouTube. I don't know.
And he didn't kill his wife. She just wanted to go hiking in the woods alone. And he left her in the middle of nowhere.
That guy is the most brazen. Again, he's not been charged with anything. I'm just saying, here's the facts of the case. He had a wife. She was occasionally on his YouTube channel. One day she wasn't anymore. And after she wasn't anymore, like the next video, he did most of his issues were on like, he would talk about, I don't remember. It's like he was very right-wing talking points and stuff. And then all of a sudden,
evolutionary psychology,
and why that means black people are dumber or whatever his stuff was. And then the next episode was how to deep clean your house with bleach. And his wife never appeared after that. And when asked about it, he said, she wanted me to take her to the woods and drop her off because she was done with our relationship. So I dropped her off with luggage in the woods and no one ever saw her again and hasn't since. And I think the police were asked questions, but they didn't have anything to say anything on. I think that's the very facts of the case. I don't think I'm libeling it, but that is very suspicious to me. I'm just saying, if your wife disappears and suddenly you have this intense urge to bleach clean the entire house, and your claim that she wanted to be dropped off in the woods, and no one ever sees her again, to me, that is the smell of bleach. That's what the eagle's doing here. Like, you're not addressing a lot of problems. Again, buy the book. You should. The book is really good, and you're missing out on many things. The wish declared, because the wish declared is so obvious, that the eagle says, and because it is appended to the end, so that she has the dream, and then there's like an appendix to the dream where the eagle flies back and says, "Oh, no. It strongly suggested that it is not her wish, but someone else's. It is the wish she is supposed to have, quote unquote, supposed. E.g., it is the conscious mind contorting itself to align with the desires of the superego, i.e., what people in her culture expect, what her religion expects, what her family would expect, what she thinks her son Telemachus would expect, what she thinks. She doesn't want people to think badly of her. She doesn't want to think badly of herself. She doesn't want to be a pariah and shamed. She wants to want what people want her to want, as everyone mostly does. I'm kind of over that, I think, to a degree, I hope. And that's why this show has trouble. Because if This show would do so much better if I constantly got up on here and got mad about things in the same way everyone else did, in a sort of group hive mind consensus of anger. That would be a lot more popular than telling people, like, oh, actually, no, maybe you're the problem, which is not something people ever want to hear. I could get up and be like, oh, flock cameras, I'm mad. But then, I couldn't do that in honesty, because I know that most of you have like a ring camera. You've already put surveillance in your house. What are you talking about? I don't have a ring camera. I don't put cameras in my house and connected to the internet, because that's strange. But most people are doing it, and they don't see any problem at all with doing it. And then they're going to complain that one is going up on the street corner. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. Do you have a ring camera, Cavi? It's okay if you do. I'm just saying.
I have a doorbell camera, but that's it. And that's mainly for if I'm traveling, I can talk to people at the door and make it seem like I'm home.
Yeah.
I don't have any cameras in the house or anything. That's crazy.
Yeah. Steven Crowder complains about these flock cameras, and he had his whole...
his whole house is wired, filming him abusing his wife.
He wired his whole house to capture him yelling at his wife. What are you talking about, Steven? But see, that's why the show does well, because hypocrisy pays. People love hypocrisy. People love hypocrisy. It's their favorite thing. Not to say that I'm not a hypocrite sometimes myself. I'm sure I am. Nothing comes to mind at the moment, but I'm sure I have been and will be in the future. I'm just saying. Okay. So she wants the things that she's supposed to want, which is what a lot of people do. Maybe we should sell mugs like Crowder used to do. Is that the way to make money? Selling mugs?
I doubt it.
Maybe, what could we sell?
You got to start like a side podcast where you're like complaining about everything. And
I know I've been tempted many times and just be like, what the problem is the demon rats and whatever. Or more popular, really, to complain about conservatives. That's where the money is.
No, I think the money is if you're like a reasonably hot girl and you just basic conservative talking points.
That's true. That works for that's a very competitive thing, though. There's so many hot girls trying to do that, and only.
Yeah, but if you could get a hot girl combined with like a man writing all the content.
Well, that's what a lot of them do. A lot of them do have men. That's how Andrew Tate made his money. He had a bunch of cam girls, and he pretended to be them texting. He was sexting with the men over while pretending to be her. That's what he even says. I'm not making that up.
He sells a course that teaches you how to do the same thing.
He sells a course that teaches you how to make money having chat sex with men as well. So you can do that. But I do think like it's so. Now, if you're a pretty black lady and you want to sign up for that's much less competitive and that's easier to get into. If you're a black woman listening, and I know many of you are, and you want to make money, start a channel or something where you are hawking conservative talking points just unabashedly. It doesn't even have to make sense. It doesn't matter. And do a little shucking and jiving. Do a little bit of a minstrel show. Go, that's right, a lot. Wave your finger. Be like a Jemima, and people will throw money at you. They love it because they want to have their thing confirmed, and also someone tell them they're not racist. That's their most deeply desired thing, is to have someone tell them you're right, and also I see that you're not racist, and I'm a black woman. So that's what they want. Just do that. You'll make money. Candace Owens did it. She started as a leftist agitator. For 100%.
Who was trying to start a doxing website.
And she married British royalty. And you can too, Shaniqua. Get out there. Get out there and try. Anyway. Oh, Candace, everything is so unserious. It's so it's so
I know,
unserious.
you got to just enjoy how insane it
You
is.
you can't, because it is all this. It is all people deflecting from their own evil over and over and over again. And that's why it doesn't, that's why things don't make sense, because no one's being honest with themselves or with anyone else. So in the first part of the dream, she has shown her actual wish, but distorted so that it gets past the censors of her mind, of her brain. There's a cool guy from the 70s. Oh, look at that 70s decor. Look at that. Oh, brilliant. There's the
It's so brown.
it is, but it is brown. But you see, you wear colorful clothes in a brown setting
Yeah,
to make
but
your clothes pop.
those colorful clothes are like brown, orange, yellow.
Well, yeah, they didn't have a lot of
Those shades in the 70s.
Yeah. In the appendix of the dream, and confirmed by the living voice of the superego, which is the society consensus, the king, Odysseus, her husband, the desire is covered over, right? So why does she? Here's a great question. Why ask someone else? Why ask the beggar? Because what she's looking for, this is why you ask your friends for things too, listener. Or you go on the internet and type, you go to imright.com or whatever. Is what you're doing is you're saying, I'm actually good, right? And you go to someone who is, you can confer omnipotence to, in a sense, but who doesn't have omniscience. So you can tell them the stuff, maybe not tell them everything, maybe leave out a few parts, innocently enough. And have them be on your side and take your side and say, no, here's why you're actually right and things are good. And you go, yes. And you don't want someone that's actually too smart, because then they might see through it. So you go to your favorite website, you go to Beggars, you go to TikTok, you go to imright.com, you go to this, you go to that. And you ask for that to happen, and someone will give you what you asked for every time. And if they don't, you can just say, oh, he's stupid. That's the great thing about it. Have you recognized this in people, Cavi? Tell us about your experiences with this for a minute.
You just muted yourself. Have I recognized this in people? I think so. And I just learned about this imright.com, and it's telling me how much the 70s sucked, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I just use that as people they have a thing and they go to Google and they type in the thing that they want to say.
Oh, this website's genius, actually.
Oh, is there one? I didn't know there was actually one.
Yeah, no, it's imright.com, and you type in like whatever you believe, and then it basically gives you reasons why that's true.
See,
it's pretty cool.
This is why AI is so popular. AI seldom disagrees with you on whether or not.
That's wild.
It will seldom call you a bad person. It will always say, well, and this is why people love it. We've basically built the superego into an actual machine that people treat as kind of the voice of God, because like I said, it's all connected. What God says, what the society says, the consensus, the facts, and all that. And its main purpose is to abscond people of guilt. This is why Christ's sacrifice had to be what it was, because there's an actual, no, you actually are forgiven. You are wrong, but you are forgiven. And people can't face that. So what they say is, I'm not wrong. Right? Because if you're forgiven of that, you have to forgive everyone else. It just makes sense. Like, you would have to be like, well, I forgive or you should not be forgiven. And people don't want to forgive everyone else, so they're not wrong. Right? People everywhere in the world, people are going, my mom was traumatic, caused me trauma, but I've been the perfect mother to mine, or my dad, but I've been the perfect dad to people. Never, ever, ever. Right? So people don't want to know. No matter what they say, this is a quote from the book again. No matter what they say, dreamers of dreams do not want to know the meaning of their dreams. Otherwise, the meaning wouldn't have been hidden in the first place. More 70s decor. Here's some bubbles.
It's very brown, orange, and yellow again.
I know it is brown, orange. What can I say? I wish I lived in a 70s house. I wish my decor was 70s. It's not. I would like to live in a mid-century modern house with 70s decor. That's sort of my dream house. This is what we call agency laundering. People seek out interpreters of their dreams. Sorry. People seek out interpreters of their dreams and desires more broadly, their wants and needs, who can be fooled, e.g., who tell them what they want to hear. Someone omnipotent, meaning the ability to validate and authorize a vision of themselves in line with the superego, but not omniscient to know everything. That's who people seek out. And so what you do is, here's a man in a confessional, like a Catholic confessional. What people do is you deputize a man or woman to tell you that you don't want what you want. This is how every conspiracy is organized. All of them. The lizard people is you. It is this move right here. Deputize someone, man or woman, to tell me that I don't want what I do. That's how it always works. Now, it is very common. Confession is good, but it is very common for people to use religious authority or secular authority to find ways to pretend they don't want what they clearly do, to find ways to be more. This is why people complain about holier than thou religion, because that is a primary use of it amongst people. It's not the way you're supposed to use it, but it is ways people inevitably do. Is my religion, although it is like I'm a horrible sinner and whatever, that on the surface, beneath that is I'm better than you, I'm good, I'm righteous, right? And that's what I mean, like confession without confrontation, because you just say these things at the priest or whatever, but you don't confront the fact that that's who you are. You just say these are things I did, or things that happened to me, or feelings I felt. Just like in the postpartum depression discussion, which people got a little upset about, and it's fine. But my point in that was, one of the ways people do this is the same as saying, doctors saying, well, it's just hormones. And I'm not saying that hormones can affect how you feel. I'm saying it's not just that. I'm saying that there is, if you didn't have an underlying evil in you, those things couldn't be agitated by hormone or external development. People have a lot of reasons. It's like saying, well, I wouldn't have been bad if I wasn't so upset. Well, I know that's kind of like everybody. If everyone was happy all the time, like they do your evil shines through when you are compromised, right? And so what society loves to do, everyone, men and women, is we deputize people to tell us why we're okay. And we all agree to it. Everyone agrees to it. Here's some pictures. There's a PolitiFact truthometer. There's Dr. Fauci. There's a lady going, can we normalize this? There's a black hands holding up trans people are valid sign. There's a scientist. There's a thing that says how to validate others, validated with a sticker. There's the courthouse building, Supreme Court. And there is the Archbishop of Canterbury. I forget her name. That woman who looks kind of like she's always constipated. Why do people see? Why do you think people ask for validation so much these days? They say, that's valid. It's valid. I have valid feelings. Your feelings are valid. That's valid? Trans people are the people who feel that way are valid. These feelings are valid all the time. Or they say, can we normalize this? Can we this or that? What they are doing, kind of very explicitly, although again, they don't recognize it because it's two parts of them operating at the same time, is asking for someone else to tell them that they're okay. They have something they feel guilty about on some level, and they want someone to tell them why they don't have to. That's the thing. They're not seeking forgiveness. This is important. That means acknowledging that you are wrong. Forgiveness. They're seeking an excuse for why they aren't actually wrong. And that is the whole thing. It's a false kind of confession and a false kind of forgiveness. And people do it inside of religion and out all the time. Dr. Fauci was big in the AIDS epidemics of the 80s. And he is the reason everyone in the 90s and 2000s and today and all of Africa was under the delusion that straight people were all going to also die of AIDS. Because no one could see his role as Dr. Fauci, all he was and is, and not so much anymore, but he was for the AIDS crisis and he was for the COVID stuff, is a guy who's the representative of the superego to tell you why you're fine. Why he validates your fears, your irrationality, your hatred of your neighbor as good and reasonable. Or in the case of the 80s, he was the one being like, hey, having anal sex with 1,000 partners in a bathhouse, that has nothing to do with whether or not you get AIDS, by the way. Nothing. Straight people can get it just as much as anyone else. And of course, that wasn't true. If it was true, straight people would be getting it now. I mean, how much unprotected sex does? So much. And so much. If that was true, all of Africa, they kept telling people in Africa they were about to all die of AIDS. It never happened. Never happened. There's strong reason to believe they fabricated. And again, they don't really even know they fabricated it. Do you see? They fabricated PCR tests to make the AIDS thing look like it was there when it wasn't. Like how did so many people in Africa allegedly be confirmed HIV positive and have so few AIDS things? Right? It doesn't make any sense except that it's not there because this whole thing, I don't even think the HIV causes AIDS in that way and that it was something else going on, which we won't go into this thing, but there's a reason that none of it made sense. And all of the stuff about it didn't make sense. And all that fear that went with it was the result of people. See, that's the thing. If you're not honest about who you are and accept forgiveness, you must fall into a lie, which makes you fall into fear, see, this is why faith is the opposite of fear. It all goes together. Right? And Jesus knows all this. It's very high level. This is all like sort of in the parables, if you really sit with them for a minute. But see, this is your inner standing, Cavi. Are you familiar with the word inner standing? I love inner standing.
It sounds like some hippie made up word.
A Rasta made up word.
Looks good on this page. Hippiness.
Yeah, it's a Rasta made up word. They don't say understanding because I don't want to stand under you. I have inner standing. It's what I know inside, your inner standing. What if you already know what's true, more or less? You're just afraid to face it. What if that? So here's some more pictures. Here's a polar bear on some ice. Here's a man swimmer competing as a woman swimmer and winning first prize. Here's some people in COVID wearing pool noodles on their hats. Here's Tesla in space with an astronaut in it around the Earth. Jeffrey Epstein, George W. Bush with some rockets behind him, George Floyd, and a bunch of migrants flooding into a country. In their heart of hearts, okay, do you really think everyone is this stupid? Or do they want to be misled? Because the misleading allows them to feel like they're good. See, it's not stupid. It's an inability to face evil. And that causes all of these things. All of them. And this is how conspiracies are covered up. There's no vast organ. Now, okay, there might be, I'm not discounting that there might in some instances be secret cabals and stuff, but for the most part, no vast organization is required. No secret cabals, no encrypted files on the dark web, nobody needing to be in on it. Deception is the organic will of the people that don't want to admit that they're bad. It happens organically. It is, there need to be a big consensus agree. Like, people went along with all the COVID hysteria quite willingly. No one organized them to. They just did it because the superego that they conform to, that tells them they're okay, that tells them all the babies they've aborted or not, that wasn't really murder, that tells them all the other stuff they did was actually, it tells them, all of it. That tells them, hey, that war in Iraq was good, or all of it. So they have to go with it, because once you don't, you have to start facing something really dark. Again, it's about deputizing a man or woman to tell me what to do. And this is why the psychoanalyst should never interpret a patient's dream for them, and the good ones don't. Because to do so, to offer an interpretation, is to be a part of the cover-up. And this is on a society scale. When you validate something for someone, mostly what you're doing is you're validating their cover-up of themselves, and you're complicit in it. You are the lizard people is you. You're the one doing the cover-up. And this is why I, as your podcast host, will never validate you, listener. Never. I will never validate you, because I care. Because I care. I will not validate you. You can validate yourself, but I will not. I will not participate in your cover-up. In fact, I will go to great lengths to disvalidate you. Is disvalidate a word? Invalidate. I like disvalidate. I will go to great lengths to disvalidate you. But notice, listeners, that Homer has validated Penelope's interpretation for us in many ways. Again, by the book. This is a great book. Oh, it's so good. Okay. So why did he do this? Why did he validate this for us? Because Agamemnon was killed in the bath. Do you know this story, Cavi?
No, I'm familiar with the name of Agamemnon, but that's it.
So Agamemnon is the one who led the Trojan War to go get back Helen. Ostensibly, although, as we've talked about, it wasn't really for that. That was the sort of the thing. And he was killed by his wife when he got home from the war. Unlike Odysseus, he sailed home pretty straightforwardly and was not constantly beset by the gods and thrown into mythic monsters and whatever, and then wasted 20 years in the Mediterranean Sea. He sailed home pretty straightforwardly and got there 10 years and 5 months after the war started, rather than 20. But before the war on Troy even started, Agamemnon's army angered the goddess Artemis. And they go see a prophet, and the prophet tells Agamemnon that in order to appease the goddess and be able to sail for Troy at all, he will have to appease her, and he can only do this by sacrificing his own daughter, which I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Iphigenia, who knows? And he does this. He sacrifices his own daughter to go off to the Trojan War. His wife, Clytemnestra, Greek names are hard, is understandably really upset about this. And while Agamemnon is gone, she takes a lover. So he's gone for 10 years, remember. Aegisthus. And upon Agamemnon's return, remember, he's an even greater king than Odysseus is. He's ruler of like a larger swath of Greece. And Odysseus is like a sub-king under him. Upon Agamemnon's return, his wife and her lover plot to kill him. And while he's in the bathtub, his wife throws, the stories differ, either a net or a heavy blanket over him that then soaks in the water and becomes very heavy. She throws a net or a blanket over him to immobilize him and then stabs him through the neck to kill him. And understandably so, he sacrificed their daughter right before he left. I think a lot of women would be justly upset about that. How do you feel about it? Would you hold that against her too much, Kathy?
A bit.
You'd hold it against her?
Yeah.
Yeah, for killing him?
Just a bit.
Just a bit. For the Greeks, see, this is a refutation of their entire society. That a victorious king can heroically sail around the world, wage war, conquer an intractable foe, and then come home only to lose his own house, killed by his own wife, was a complete refutation of honor culture. And it's also the exact opposite of Penelope, or at least what Penelope is supposed to be. You see? And so when Penelope gets home, when Odysseus gets home, she's portrayed as like, well, yes, but see, this is what Clytemnestra should have done. This is what a good wife. This is what. Don't worry, Odysseus. We're not wrong. Everything we've done isn't bad, and sets us up for failure and the destruction by those we love. We're actually still right. She was just bad, right? Through Homer, because in Hades. Agamemnon is the first one to praise Penelope for being a faithful wife. And most scholars have taken that at face value. But this is merely, I claim, and the book claims, wish fulfillment of Greek culture, trying to re-legitimize honor society that Agamemnon's wife had refuted. Okay, but what did Penelope actually desire? Right? If I mentioned all those issues with the dream, and the most straightforward thing, because when you look at the numbers, dreams are seldom off on numbers that specific. If she had 108 suitors, she'd have had 108 geese. But she had 20 geese, and what corresponds with 20 in the story is 20 years. That's how long Odysseus was gone. And what she had, you see, because think of these men she's around, Agamemnon and sacrificing his daughter, and Odysseus, who probably threw a baby off a wall to get out of Troy and all this stuff. She had 20 beautiful years of peace, meaning not having to choose anything. And that's what she's sad that Odysseus is coming to kill. She likes the default that has settled into the world after Odysseus is gone. And all the Greeks have sailed away. Yes, things are static and there's some issues. But in general, all the crazy people that like to kill everything have left, including my husband. And now things are peaceful. And I don't want to have to making decisions about when she comes back. Was she faithful the whole time or not? It doesn't really matter. She didn't want him back. As I said, would you? Because if anyone deserves the word toxic, it's kind of Odysseus. I mean, chaos follows him everywhere he goes, and it is kind of his fault in many of those cases. This is Penelope at her loom by Angelica Kaufman in 1764. It's a painting in a Renaissance style. And one of the things Penelope did was she told the way she put off the suitors is she said, well, listen, my father-in-law, Odysseus' father, is dying and he's old. Let me finish weaving the burial shroud for him, and I will then choose one of you as my husband. And what she does is she weaves it every day, and then at night she unweaves it. She's stalling for time. And it's implied in the story, actually, that in some mythical way, Odysseus can't come home until she completes it. Because she only completes it right before he gets back. That this is her weaving it is kind of, again, this isn't explicitly stated, but it's kind of implied it's like tied to the weaving of fate, the weaving of the fates, is that she is stalling for time. And when she finishes this, she knows that her years of peace are over. And she's finally forced to finish it because everyone's like, they're wise to the ruse, you know. And think about it. So her father-in-law is dead or dying. Her husband is gone. She's the center of attention. Everyone wants her and wants to be with her. And authority. She's got all this power. She doesn't have to share with anybody. Without having to choose any man, she's a free woman. And she understandably likes the post-antebellum war era. The mode of life she settled into absent her husband is nice, peaceful, makes her very desirable and high status. And so she enjoys watching the geese because they aren't suitors. They're the years that she's had things to herself where she's high value. She's under the authority of no one else. She doesn't have to share her power with anybody. And everyone in her life that's insane and kills people all the time, is gone. And so that's why she enjoys the suitors. And she thinks that, and the eagle flies away because she believes, rightly, that he's just going to fly off again. Right? Odysseus is coming to end them, and she believes, probably correctly, that he's going to come in, make a mess, end their thing, and then fly off again anyway. And that's actually kind of weird. She can't admit that to herself because she doesn't want to not want her husband. the superego wants. She wants to love her husband and be faithful to Greece. She thinks that's what she should want. But in her heart, she sympathizes with Agamemnon's wife because, hey, my husband killed a baby and abandoned us for 20 years to go fight some stupid war. And he's been cheating on me the whole time with goddesses and witches and nymphs. And I actually don't like him very much. But I should like him. But hey, there's 108 other people here that like me actually. And they did not come with all that baggage. But I don't actually have to choose them. And it's a perfect setup for her. She doesn't want it to go. Right. I mean, this dream makes, and for the past 3,000 years, we've all been engaged in a conspiracy theory to not notice this very obvious interpretation of the dream, which makes sense of all the facts that the eagle's interpretation leaves out. Because everyone wants to believe, right? And that is if you like, a patriarchal desire. The desire that civilization is correct and doesn't need correction, and that and that all these things of Western civilization don't need any moderating female force and all these things. And we've all been, and women have been like, yeah, well, we are loyal and we do that. Everyone has wanted to want what they are supposed to want and wanted others to want it. And so we've all been blind to this for 3,000 years. But Penelope was absolutely right, by the way. The eagle did fly away again. I'm going to throw up a picture here. Cavi, who's that? Cavi, he's gone again.
No, I'm here. You cut out, actually.
Oh, he's okay.
I hear you.
Penelope was absolutely right, by the way. The eagle did fly away again. Who's that, Cavi?
It's Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin, one of your countrymen, kind of. I know he's Australian, but Canada and Australia are both in the Commonwealth. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
Kind of the same. What was he famous for dying of? You know?
Stingray killed him, didn't it?
Stingray killed him. Stingray through the heart. Same thing happened to Odysseus. His death came from the sea. So in the extra Homeric sources, so the prophet in the underworld, Tiresias, he claims that Odysseus will go home, kill the suitors. He'll live a long life, and then he'll find his death from the sea. And what happens is Penelope's fear that he brings chaos with him wherever he goes is correct. It's 100% correct in that he had a baby with Circe, a son, while he was away. And when he is grown up, he decides he wants to see his father. And so Circe gets him a boat and sends him on his way with some men. And in kind of a reverse Odyssey thing, his son from Circe gets lost, but ends up landing at Ithaca anyway, but not realizing that that's where he's landed. And so he decides to raid the local village for supplies, much like his father did many times on his Odyssey. And to defend the city comes out an aged Odysseus, and his own son, kills him with a spear tipped with a stingray tip. And so his own death did come from the sea, straight through the heart, as with Steve Irwin. I'm not sure if there's a symbolic connection between the two, but maybe. And then, strangely, even more strangely, Penelope, the wife that everyone calls faithful, marries the son that killed his father. That's some Odyssey, Oedipal stuff, if I ever heard it. She's a very old lady at this point, marrying someone that easily could have been her grandson, that is the son of her actual husband by another woman. I don't know. That's weird. Anyway. So let's talk about SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Kevin, what do you know about this? SIDS.
Yeah, babies mysteriously dying.
Babies mysteriously dying, yeah.
For most of my life, I thought it was probably vaccines. But in recent years, I've heard more and more people talking about it. No, it's just really mothers are tired of the babies being too loud and they smother them with a pillow.
Yeah. And again, that's kind of, listen, ladies, if this isn't you, you don't need to take offense of it, right? Individuate. You're not a collective. It's okay. But this is Winetta Hoyt. Her babies, she had 5, and they all died of SIDS in the 60s and 70s. All of them. And her baby's deaths were instrumental in how the medical community diagnosed and formulated SID, like the medical descriptions of sudden infant death syndrome. Her cases were they weren't the only ones, but they were part of the original medical literature on the subject and how that came to be a term. Okay. And then in 1994, she confessed to having murdered them all. So, about 3 decades later, she was like, actually, I killed them all. And this is so here's the risk factors for SIDS. Let's look at these. Lack of prenatal care, right. Smoking, exposure during unslaved sleeping positions, teen pregnancy, overheating during sleep, male infants, higher risk. Why would that be? Sibling of SIDS victim, right? So a bunch of the history of apnea or stopped breathing. Okay. So a lot of these things are a baby that's a big problem, right? Premature. And then with a mother that's stressed out. And they even say over here in this graph, vulnerable infant, right? Outside stressors. What a lot of SIDS appears to be is just women murdering their children, their infant children. Much like many people, much like it appears this Lindsay Clancy lady did. Okay. And is this, Cavi, I had a hamster. You ever had a hamster?
No, I've had fish and cats.
Fish and cats. Hamsters do not have morality. Hamsters. They are rodents, and rodents don't have much theology that I can discern or higher opinions. And we had this hamster of ours got pregnant by another hamster, and it had baby hamsters, and I think it had 7 of them, and she ate 4. And infanticide of that kind is very common in the animal kingdom. Infanticide amongst primates is extremely high. Monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees. Under varying circumstances, often when the mother is stressed for different reasons, maybe there's lack of access for food of all of them, maybe her community is, chimpanzees have communities. And if she's being picked on a lot by the other chimps or whatever, she feels isolated. They will often just kill. Now, do they have? They're not on medication. They're not on. But infanticide is very high in the animal community. Specifically, mothers killing their children. Although male members of the species do also engage in infanticide. Okay. Why? It's not a huge surprise that would also be involved in people, especially when people have a long history of doing it. I mean, like the Roman Empire for ages had exposure, right? Where you would take a child that you didn't want. It came out sort of deformed or even just slightly deformed if you had a cleft palate or whatever, and they just leave it outside on a rock to bake in the sun or die in the snow. And they had designated areas where you would go and do this. It's not at all an uncommon practice. And the dirty secret is it wasn't even in, the dirty secret is that it wasn't, it was well known throughout most of medieval Europe. And so, there was all that stuff about the high mortality rate in the past. And that is true and due to a lot of just plain old medical factors, bad hygiene and whatever. But also, there's a lot of reason to suspect that it was just mothers killing their kids again because they lived in they were very stressed out time. Have you ever heard of the lung float test, Cavi?
Not at all.
So the lung float test was something that they came up with in medieval Europe. And actually, they still do this in some parts of South and Central America today. So it was kind of a medieval way of dealing with So it was, the idea was if a mother smothered her, if the baby stopped breathing on its own or something like that, you could cut the lungs out of the dead, which is very gross. Okay. And if they floated in water, the actual organs, the lungs, then they were good and the baby was killed that way. But actually organs don't really, it's very easy to get them to sink because you get water. It was kind of a way of excusing women from doing this, like from guilt. And I know that's very upsetting for people to hear, but it seems to be true based on everything I can. And here's some things, right? Here's Lindsay Clancy. Yeah. Here's a thing from the New Yorker about Winona Hoyt. Did a murderer in waiting go undetected because she was a woman? And the answer is that is yes. Here's the National Library of Medicine article, PubMed, published in 2019, about infanticide. It says the abstract is, quote, maternal infanticide, where the murder of a child in the first year of life by its mother is a subject both compelling and repulsive. Underlined here, the victim is innocent, but the perpetrator may be a victim too. Now, isn't that an interesting, because see, here's the thing. None of us, nobody, not women, not men, not even me, although I'm willing to talk about it, want to believe that a significant portion of women have it in them to murder their own child, their own infant, in cold blood. None of us want to believe that. I don't want to believe it. And so we all have agreed in the same way that we all agreed to uphold Penelope, the eagle in Penelope's dreams, dumb, completely incongruous interpretation, to hold up our visions of, whatever, masculine conquest and the right of all these things and faithfulness and whatever. We've all sort of agreed, and people have agreed for ages, to come up with reasons for why what is pretty clearly done in the night infanticide isn't. And if you doubt me on that, okay, SIDS, let's say it was sudden, infants just suddenly die. Why does it never happen in the daytime when they're asleep in a stroller? Why does it never happen when they're around other people? Why does it never happen when their fathers are around, which is a big, like, it's very heavily single women. Why does it, or women whose husbands are gone for the night? Why doesn't it ever happen in many of these other instances? It seems to only happen at night when the mother's the only one there with the child. That's strange. That's very strange that is the case, right? And one of the reasons we like to say this is now in the Hoyt case, the reason, Cavi, that we have CPAP machines today that people buy all the time and get diagnosed with is because of in part anyway, Winona Hoyt, 100% fact, at least as far as I can tell. There may be more information, but this is pediatrician Dr. Alfred Steinschneider studied the deaths of the last two Hoyt children and published a 72 landmark journal in pediatrics that contributed to how SIDS was defined. And he theorized that SIDS could run in families and was linked to prolonged sleep apnea, so the baby just stops breathing, helping launch a major industry for home cardiorespiratory apnea monitors and the whole fear that if people have sleep apnea at night, they're going to stop breathing enough and die. But that was all just like the AIDS thing, which wasn't real. The COVID thing, the all of them, the climate. It is all a way for the super ego, which is the collective way that we determine right and wrong, to look at people that are clearly doing something evil and say, no, actually, it's not that. And here's the thing. Why wouldn't Lindsay Clancy? Okay, let me ask you this, listeners. If she was actually remorseful, here's what I think most women would do, because most women are not this. Most women are very good, by human standards. We all have that evil inside of us we don't want to look at. But most women are not a Lindsay Clancy and are not going to kill their kids, right? And I think that if it was true, and you, like most women, here's what I think would happen. If they did have a true psychotic break, or were possessed by a demon, or were overwhelmed with chemicals in their brain from a hormone and prescription drug cocktail, and they snapped and killed their kids, what they would do is they would not be having a trial at all. They would get up there and say, I'm guilty, please kill me. That's what would happen. If they couldn't bring themselves to kill themselves, they would say, I'm guilty, please. They would not be able to live with that. She's trying to get off in a way, and people say she's pleading insanity, which means she'll go to a mental institution. You get out of a mental institution eventually. You're declared sane again. Usually. She's trying to get off for doing this. Would you be trying to get off if you? But see, why is she? Because she does, in a sense. I guarantee you, she feels terrible about this. And why she is doing it is she wants the superego, the community, the state, the people online to tell her, no, it wasn't your fault. You're good. You have a problem. It wasn't you. And that's what all these women online, that's why they're also sympathizing with her, because they felt those similar feelings at night, wanting to kill their kids. They didn't do it. They felt the feeling. Not all of them, not most of them, but enough to where it's a noticeable phenomenon online. And some of them had abortions and they feel bad about that because there's really no difference and they know it. And what they need, if you hold this woman accountable, then I'm accountable. See? Do you see how it works? That's how the feeling goes. So we have to excuse her. It wasn't her fault. It's the meds and this. It's everyone's problem. It's the system's problem. It's not mine. And that's what there's such the emphasis all the time on systemic this, systemic that, because we just push it out. And that's the offloading of responsibility that I talk about. And this is the cost of a lie. This is all this stupid stuff that we're about that happens in our society is perpetuated by people's inability to face their own insides. And so every cover-up happens exactly this way. There doesn't need to be a huge cabal. There sometimes can be. In a few cases, I think there is. But in most cases, it doesn't even need to happen. It doesn't need to be there. It is the organic will of the people to not look at the evil within themselves. And that's how it happens. This is how conspiracies happen, not with a bang, but with a whimper. It's just the quiet, there isn't some grand, it's just the quiet unwillingness of people to look at themselves in the mirror. That's all. What do you think about that, Cavi?
It's a lot to unpack, but it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. I think it does too. Yes. And this is the kind of good stuff and even more that you would get in the book if you bought it. But a lot of you are you don't want enlightenment. You don't want, it's fine. Imagine if the Buddha had put out a guaranteed path to enlightenment book and you were just like, no, I'm not going to read it.
Sounds like work.
Sounds like work. I'm not going to read it. I want to. But see, this is the problem. Anyway, I hope people, and there's so much into the Sid stuff, you could go forever, but we just scratched the surface. And that's actually co-sleeping is mostly okay. And a lot of women have missed out on that bonding time with their children, and children missed out on that bonding time with their mother. Because that's another one of the things that we blame it on as women. And sometimes it is. Sometimes a very usually obese lady, it's what it is, I'm sorry, who's also usually on some sort of drugs and is not conscious, does roll over on her baby and smothers it to death. But a lot of times that smothering is done on purpose with a pillow. Okay? And that's really upsetting to think about. But look, the 20 geese for 20 years. People want what they're supposed to want, but they don't want it. Anyway, how's things in your neck of the woods, Cavi? You got a crow friend.
I got a crow friend. His name's Russell.
Russell, tell us about your crow.
He comes, he visits like at least usually 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
He's fun. I'm trying to like train him to not be scared of me. I can get maybe about 10 feet ish close to him now without him freaking out.
Yeah,
I'm
you should
hoping
try
one
to.
day
Yeah, you should try to get him to bring you trinkets. You know, if you give them things,
yeah,
crows
that's what I
will
was gonna
sometimes.
say. I'm
Yeah,
hoping he's gonna bring me money and stuff.
that would be awesome if you had a little trained army of crows that just drop little quarters or what do
Up,
you what?
up.
Yeah,
Apparently they'll like protect your house and stuff if they start to like you.
yeah, that's awesome. I'm rooting for you and Russell. I hope you have a great relationship.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone. I hope you've learned something. I know this was an advanced course, and I know that it's difficult for people to. And it's advanced not because it's complicated, but because it makes people very uncomfortable. But this is how it's one. See how it's always you're always projecting it out again. The cabals is like, no, it's someone else being bad. It's someone else the bad over there. I'm the good guy. It's someone else over there being the bad. They're the bad. And that's another way of hiding it. It's just another way of hiding it. It's just another way of hiding it over and over again. It's a form of projection. Freud was right about a lot of things, and that's why they hated him. Until next time, peace, love, and chicken grease. Sumo and Cavi out.